Hi, everyone. Welcome to Prevention Education, the podcast that teaches you everything about prevention. Thanks for listening, and let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Prevention Education episode. I am Kylie, and I am the Prevention Project Specialist for Preferred Family Healthcare in our Prevention Department. And I am super excited to talk to you guys today about the topic that is picked out. So we are going to continue the topic of having conversations about substance use with different ages. And this episode, we're going to be talking about how to start the conversation about marijuana with teens. And I know marijuana is kind of a hot topic right now, but as a youth substance prevention department, we just really want to emphasize that although it is legal for adults to use marijuana, it is still illegal for teens and youth to engage with this substance. And there's a lot of information, a lot of facts about why we should help prevent youth from engaging with marijuana specifically. And so I really encourage you to dive deep into that world. But if you don't know more about that world and you don't want to do the research, that is totally okay. I will be doing an episode on the facts of marijuana with youth as well. So I'm hoping to put that out in about 2 weeks. I just really want to make sure that I have the right information for you guys, and I'm putting out information that's valuable and that is worthy for you to be listening to. So stay tuned for that. But with this episode, we're going to be talking about conversation starters, so how you can start the conversation about marijuana with teens, some tips during the conversation, some goals that you can have throughout the conversation, and then I'll also share a couple facts with you, just to, if you don't know much about marijuana in youth, just to get you introduced with the topic. So I will start with facts. In 2022, 30.7% of the United States high school 12th graders reported using cannabis or marijuana in the past year, and 6.3% reported using cannabis daily in the past 30 days. So, marijuana is very addictive. About 1 in 6 people who start using as teens, and 25 to 50% of people who actually use it every day become addicted to marijuana. So knowing that facts, I just want to move into why start the conversation. Youth want to make healthy choices, but they need regular guidance without judgment to do that. Teens need to know that you care for them, and they need to see your support. One conversation can help them to make a decision that is healthy for them and can really change the trajectory of their life. And you can save a life with one conversation. I know it might not seem like one conversation would make a huge difference, but that can lead to a lot more conversations and can lead to a really awesome relationship where they trust you and they come to you about facts, information, tips, advice, all of that, and can help them to live a healthier lifestyle. So now that we know a couple facts, now that we know why we should start the conversation, I want to get into some conversation starters. So I know it can be awkward, it can be uncomfortable to start this conversation, and I'm here to build your tool belt so that you can go into this conversation being confident about what you're going to talk about. And also, I just want a little bit of a disclaimer. I will be saying marijuana in this podcast mostly, but if you prefer to say cannabis because of the research done behind that, that is totally okay. Just know that when I'm saying marijuana, I am talking about cannabis, and when I say cannabis, I'm talking about marijuana as well. I know that there can be some differences in those, but for this podcast, every time I say it, it's the same thing for me. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. But let's jump into conversation starters. So the first conversation starter you can say is, marijuana is becoming more common. Do you happen to know the effects of it? And I know that that's so random to just like sit there and then you start a conversation by saying that. But that really jumpstarts the conversation, and maybe they'll think, like, why did they bring this up? Or that caught me off guard. Let's, talk more about that. Why are you saying this? But then you get to know if they know the effects. And then you can dive into that conversation of, yeah, so if you don't know the effects, here are some effects that it can have on someone your age. And if you do know the effects, great, what do you know so that maybe I can learn from you? The second conversation starter that you can start with is, hey, what are some ways that you've been coping with stress? Now, this question, I know, does not directly say marijuana in it, but that's okay. You can ask them this in order to see if they have adaptive or good or positive coping strategies and what they are. And they might potentially slip up and say, oh yeah, on the occasion I'll smoke and it just helped me relieve some stress. And then you can be like, oh, that's interesting. What are some positive things that you do, and how can I support you in doing those more often so that we can maybe stop the bad habits, or maybe not bad, but just not positive habits that you're doing to cope. So then that can just lead you down a road of helping them to find the healthy coping strategies instead of the non-healthy ones or the unhealthy ones. The third conversation starter can be, do you feel supported by people? And by who do you feel supported? So this conversation starter is gauging if they have a community that they do feel supported by, if they have someone that they trust. Because if they don't, then you can tell them, either way, you can tell them that you are there for them to support them. And that can get deeper into the conversation of marijuana, because you can say, if you don't have the right people to turn to, sometimes people come to you with decisions, and if you trust someone, that you can go and ask them about it rather than just engaging in substance use. So if you feel supported, who can you talk to about marijuana if someone brings it up? Or if you do feel supported, who are those people in your lives that you know that care? Because I want to make sure that you do feel supported, because there are people here for you. You can kind of go down that path. And then the last conversation starter I have is, if you were curious about trying marijuana, would you come to me about it? Now, this might be more of a conversation starter for a very specific adult in their life, or even a best friend potentially, but someone that's really close to them. Because you want to know directly, will you tell me? And sure, they might lie to you, but at least they know that you were there thinking and caring about them. Because if they say yes, you can say, okay, in what ways would you come to me? How would I know that you need my help? What would that help look like? What would you want me to do for you or say? So that could lead into that conversation. But you just really want to know if they would come to you if they're curious about it, because that's the goal here. If they have any idea about marijuana, or if they want to try it at all, we really want them to come to the caring adult in their life first, so that we can help them to make the healthy decision and choose not to use it. So I hope one of those conversation starters spoke to you and can help you out in starting this conversation. We will next be moving on to tips. So these tips, I just really encourage you to keep in the back of your mind as you go throughout the conversation, because they are so important. The first tip is listen to them. Teens will listen to you if you listen to them. If you are an adult, you're not going to sit in a conversation where you're just listening and listening and listening. You also want to be heard. And so put yourself in those teenagers' shoes. You don't want to be lectured to. You want an honest, truthful, caring conversation where you feel heard as well. So make sure you listen. The second tip is acknowledge that they are smart and capable, and that you are there to support them. You do not want to discredit them. You don't want to come off and say, You're young and dumb and you don't know much about this, and I'm here to tell you what is right. You want to tell them you are a smart, smart, smart young lady, young man, and I just really want to make sure that you feel supported so that you can make healthy decisions in your life. And I know that you're capable of making those healthy decisions on your own. I just want to be someone that is here for you if you need them. Really make sure that you drive that point home. The third tip is encourage them to make healthy decisions. This one could not be more obvious. The point of this conversation is to show them that marijuana can affect them in a lot of different ways, and you want to encourage them to make the healthy decision to not use marijuana. The next tip is put your opinions aside and show facts. I know sometimes in a conversation it can get heated because you have an opinion of what you're talking about. So whether that is, this is a very simple and kind of ridiculous example, but if you are arguing that someone should get a golden doodle, but they like beagles instead, but you're like, no, you should get a golden doodle because they're just so cute. They don't bark like beagles do. They're so chill. They're this, they're that. I just love them. I just cuddle with them. They're just adorable. And it's like, well, actually, if you want to argue about getting a golden doodle instead of a beagle, you can say, this is about how much you'll spend on grooming. This is about how much like love and care that it can bring you in your life. And if you show them the facts of it rather than your emotions about it, then they might be likely to get it. And I don't know, that could potentially happen. Again, I acknowledge that is not the best example, but just want to show you guys an example that's out of the scope of substance so that you can make sure to use examples of other conversations in this conversation, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So put your opinions aside and show the facts. The facts are solid in and of themselves, and so it's really important to just show them how many kids around them are using, what it can do to their brain, how it can affect their future. All these are things that will help them choose the healthy path. The next tip is focus on positive messages. During the conversation, this is even a fact for social media. If you put messaging out there that's saying, don't do this, don't smoke marijuana because it could destroy your life forever, don't engage in youth marijuana use because it could kill your body. All of that is very negative. But if you say being substance free can help you to live a healthier life, that is more of a positive messaging that's putting out the same message. And so you really want to say positive messages such as, you are a wonderful human that makes great decisions, and I know that you can make a really healthy decision in the future that could put you on an amazing path. Instead of saying, don't make the wrong choices that can lead to terrible decisions. So just make sure that you're focusing on the positive messaging instead of just being negative the entire time, because you want to show them the upside and the positive side of it, not necessarily the negative side of it. Or I'm sorry, the negative side in the way of your words. The last tip is include friends in the conversation. Maybe your teen has a friend over and you're just sitting there on the couch with all the kids around and you're like, you know what, this is a great opportunity to just ask them. I don't know, do it. Or if you are one-on-one, maybe bring in friends in the sense of like, hey, if you're with Sarah, what are some things that you guys do? How do you guys have fun? So then you know that they have a positive friend with them, that you care about their friends as well, not just them, and that you're really trying to put an effort to care for them and show the support for them and their peers. So important. Because if you can remember, identity is huge in this stage as well. And so if they know that you care about them and their friends, then they're more likely to listen to you. So those are some of my tips. Now we're going to move into goals. The first goal is answer any question that they might have. Remember, it's a conversation, not a lecture. So if you don't know the answer, totally okay. That's a wonderful opportunity to dive into it together. Google it, search it with Yahoo, any way that you search, and find that answer together so that you're showing that you're not just there with the information you brought in, you're willing to learn more new information. So answer any questions. And if you know the answer, fantastic. Make sure you back it up as well. Our next goal is to help create a plan if they're in an uncomfortable situation with marijuana present. And so I mentioned this in other episodes. The plan can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. Simple can be text me if you need me to come get you, or if you're uncomfortable, and simply you can just say, "What's for dinner?" But with 2 exclamation points instead of 1. Or it can be, "Call me, go here, I'll come here, and I'll pick you up." So it can be a 1 step or a multiple step, but just make sure that you create a plan with them so that they have a way out if marijuana is present and they don't want to be there. The next goal is establish trust. So establish trust, build rapport, make sure that they know that you were there for them and not for you. If you establish that trust, they will come to you in the conversation or in the future with a conversation, and you don't have to continuously go to them. And the last goal is help them to know a couple facts so that they can share it with others. Teens are so influential with each other, and if they can be that person that tells other people facts about marijuana and why they should choose the healthy decision to not use marijuana at their age, that would be a huge game changer. Because once again, youth listen to youth. And if they trust each other, they trust the information, and they will make decisions based on that as well. So build their tool belt so that they can build other people's tool belts as well. So with that is all that I have for you guys today. Keep your eyes out for a podcast on the facts of marijuana use in teens, or pretty much youth. And thank you so much for listening today. Please share this episode with someone that you think could benefit from it. And just thank you so much for spending part of your day with me on this podcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully we will catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into our podcast. Remember to follow us on social media at PFH Prevention. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Spotify, and more podcasting platforms. And make sure to email us at moprevention@pfh.org with any questions, and feel free to call us at 660-627-7404. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.